All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 72, Dads and Ed podcast. We are got another Wednesday night show. Actually went pretty well last time, so it doesn't really matter. Wednesday nights are what work for us, so that's what we're rolling with. We have a great show lined up tonight. We have a guest actually tonight. We did not have one last week. We did get one for this week that I'm very excited about. We're going to have some dad chatting and some education chat, which is what we do. So to bring on someone else just as smart as us, that'd be perfect. My name is Josh Allen. So excited to join all of you here tonight. Devin.
Yes.
Walking in at the last minute again.
I got it. I'm in.
It's all that matters. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, introduce myself.
Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know I had a role in this. I just thought I was here. Devin Schoening in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I work for the wonderful Council Bluffs schools. I have two great children, 11 and 13, middle schoolers now, Gracie and Claire, and then my wonderful wife, Erin.
Awesome. Mr. Catlett.
Yes, sir. Brent Catlett here from Kansas City, Missouri. Amazing wife, Josie, 5 children. Hey, I got to tell you guys, got a big announcement. I got a new job, and I officially start Sunday with the Apple Incorporated as a development executive. So I'm no longer the technology director as of tomorrow in the Independence.
Cool.
Nice.
So,
Congratulations.
I'm appreciative you guys leaving me on the show for the time being until, my contract is renegotiated.
That will be happening soon, just so you know.
But I'm excited. I'm going to be working with schools and districts across Missouri and Kansas, so I'll still be in education and still a dad, and that's not going anywhere. So I think I still kind of fit in the team here.
We have a pretty strict guideline, pretty straightforward, certain details, criteria you have to meet. So we'll review that at some point, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, congratulations, Brent. We are very excited for you, and looking forward to hearing more about that. So, if you want to get in touch with the show, as always, you can connect with the show at Dads and Ed on Twitter. Use the Dads and Ed hashtag anytime. If you missed part of the show, now, gentlemen, we talked last week about how we're like the number 11th podcast on all these top 10 lists.
Yep.
I did find out if you do a search in iTunes for Dads and Ed, we show up first.
Yeah.
Get
No
out
one
of
else.
here.
No, that's true. True story. Try it.
I've actually tried that before and saw that.
Yeah. I challenge you to find a podcast provider that you cannot search Dads and Ed, and we show up first. So take that.
That's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
Other podcasts.
I think it's excellent branding myself.
Yeah, that's kind of how we roll.
Yep.
You can always go to our website, dadsanded.com. Subscribe in iTunes. Hey, leave us a review. Leave us a star rating. We need to get on somebody's top 10 list. If anyone's out there listening and wants to create a top 10 list that somehow we show up, we're not asking for number 1. We don't, we just want 10.
Yeah.
We could make up our own, but that's a little self-serving, a little less than us begging you to make a top 10 list that we show up in.
Perhaps I should create like an account and then just write a blog post and, put the top 5 educational podcasts out there and at the top.
Would that be like Kevin Durant creating fake accounts to tweet nasty things about his coworkers?
It would. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is too now with all these other great dad podcasts out there. Maker Dads and Dads as Principals. I mean, for crying out loud, we wouldn't even be we wouldn't be number 1 on the list of podcasts that just have dads in the title.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna have to start calling ourselves the 13th best podcast on your top 10 list.
Well, at some point we could be grandpas in Ed, and I bet there's not one of those.
Hey, we all better have a few years before that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys are older than I am.
I'm
and your
just
kids
saying,
are older than I
sometime in
am.
the future, this show changes from dads and dad to grandpas in retirement. I think is what it changes to.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to do the podcast a whole lot earlier when that comes around. We'll have to do like a 2:00 podcast
Yes.
from the golf course.
Right
How
before.
about, was it Lance Lennon tweeted us today about the podcast pavilion going on at iTech coming?
Yeah.
Say there would be 8 podcasts recording, I think he said.
Is that what it was?
You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Right this year. Yeah.
Well,
it's gonna be great. We'll be on Monday afternoon at 3:00 on October 16th. So we might have to look at our schedule moving forward and make sure we can make that work because we're scheduled in October 13th at 3:00.
Okay. Well,
Or October 16th.
16th. Yeah.
Yep.
Former guest on the show, Dean Shresky, will be a keynote at iTech this year. So looking forward to that.
Yep.
And I think I haven't looked at the sheet. Is Dads on Deck or Dads as Principals, are they doing a podcast from there?
Yep, they are.
Awesome.
Yep. Tony Vincent will be there as a featured, I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Been on another Dads and Ed guy.
Yeah. Lance Lennon, the former Dads and Ed guest. He was a season closer a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Organizing it, and Gaff admins, I'm assuming, will be doing a podcast.
Yep, they are.
They're like way smarter than
Absolutely.
I am. But
the IQ on that podcast is a little higher than the IQ on this podcast.
yeah.
I mean, at least for some of our podcasts.
Well, depends on our guest.
Not saying who. That's right.
His first 15 minutes is a little bit lower than the last 45, but anyway. All right, so like Dads on Deck, which is what we're going to talk with Eric Ewald about tonight. We are a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Did you guys know that? Dads on Deck, new podcast, Make Your Dad Dads as Principals collaboration, is on the Edu Podcast Network, just like we are. So
nice.
Got some podcast brethren coming on this evening.
That's right.
We'll get more to that here in a little bit. And like we said, looking forward to a special Monday afternoon show in a few weeks. So let's see. Let's jump into the water cooler. I tweeted this out on Dads and Ed on the hashtag earlier this afternoon so you guys could get some reading in. But I don't know where you guys saw this at, but former guest Matt Miller at Drop Step Dunk on the Twitters and the Insta shared a post called "The Silent Tragedy Affecting Today's Children" and what to do about it, or what to do with it. Excuse me. So one of the interesting tidbits that the author put is that in 2 months, and let's see when this was written. Can't find it right. May 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So as of this summer, it had been read by 10 million people, and I had never seen it. So, and I know a lot of people, I had shared it on some social media, and a lot of people had reshared it from there too. So hopefully some more people got to check it out. I will re-put it on the Dads and Ed hashtag here in just a second. But Silent Tragedy Affecting Today's Children, fantastic opening picture of two parents putting a crown on their preteen son. Leads wonderfully into the article. But Brent, you want to kind of give us your thoughts on the article?
Absolutely.
Put it on the hashtag.
I saw you posted on Facebook, and so I dug in one morning very early and was reading through. And I personally, like I mentioned pre-show, Josh, I loved it. I think, as we've talked about at length on the show, I mean, I have personally struggled with, I don't know, just my kids and how much connectivity and myself and battling through setting my phone down and just being present. And, you know, so as she digs into some of the things that she's seeing and what's wrong with, you know, just emotionally available parents and clearly defining limits and guidance and, you know, movement and outdoors, all those sorts of things. I think she makes some great points about perhaps what's going on with, while we love technology and it's kind of what we do in education and we We love to promote good quality technology integration within our schools. There's just still that battle as parent, and certainly it evolves into school as well. But like as dads and as parents, like, how are you handling that sort of stuff at home? And I know Devin's children are a little older. My kids are young yet where they don't have phones. So I'm not in an environment where my kid is on a phone potentially, or, I've really limited the iPads at the house, and have really tried to dig in and quite honestly be more engaged as a parent when I'm home. And my wife, and we've kind of made a pact that we're going to step up and, be more involved with them, and consistent and playing and doing things outside and going to the park, and playing some games and Uno, and just some old-fashioned Yahtzee and things that don't involve technology. And I know that I got to a point in my own home where I felt like I was allowing that to essentially, for lack of better words, kind of like babysit my kids at times so that I could get something done. And when I look back at that, I'm kind of embarrassed at how I was being as a parent. And so when I read through this article, I thought, man, she's hitting some points of things where if I was being brutally honest with myself, she was spot on with how I once was as a parent, and like sometimes what I see in other parents, or just in general, how so many people, in my humble opinion, are so incredibly connected to their phone at times. They're just not being in the moment with either, whether it's their family, friends, whatever the case might be. But I have found myself wanting to gravitate more away from that, and in that idea of just being present. So I think she articulated that pretty well in this article, and made a lot of great points.
Yeah, and I guess I would say that I generally agree with that as well. We try. There are times we certainly fail at it, but we try to have those times too. We're out doing things, going on a hike, playing a game, all the things that are mentioned in the article, and all the things you just talked about, Brent. But so I want to start with that I generally agree with what she's saying. I also think things change over time too. I think that that parenting and being a kid, and all that is different now than it was 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And so I think some of that just changes. I think some of it is figuring out, and we've talked about it before on here, but is figuring out that balance, right? I mean, it's not an all or nothing either way. Certainly days in the summertime where we're kicking our kids outside. There are times, one of the things that I kind of that resonated with me from the article was this discussion about kids understanding how to deal with boredom, and what to do when you're not being entertained. I think that part of it I generally agree with, but I think it's one of those things too that just sounds like, oh boy, it was so great before. When we didn't have a phone, kids just went outside and played. Yeah, not always. It wasn't perfect then either. And I think we just need to do a better job of figuring that out. And that part of the article I really do agree with.
And, to that point, Devin, I think when I saw it, my mind went to, somebody told me a story a while back about how they were out to eat with their family, and the family was, having a good time, and they looked over and there was a family of 4 or 5, 2 adults and 2 or 3 kids, and four of their family members were on their phone, and the 5th kid was 2 or 3 or something like that, and kind of almost sitting by himself because everyone else was engrossed in their phone. I think those are the types of situations that drive me nuts. And when I catch myself doing it, it drives me even more nuts that I talk about how you shouldn't, and then I'm the one who's doing it. So I remember, Brent, I remember, I don't remember how many years ago, we are on season 5, but I remember you talking one night about, setting your phone on top of the fridge and, for the weekend or something like that. And, unfortunately, I don't always do a great job when the phone's in my pocket of not checking it. I've turned a lot of notifications off. I know Russ Garand mentioned at one time about, a summer of turning your phone notifications off. And I've done that with a lot of mine, and it definitely has helped. But, unfortunately, I can't always handle it just being in my pocket. So, sometimes I do have to set it aside and, be more present in the moment than what I already am.
It just made me wonder, when she threw some statistics at the beginning about 1 in 5 children have mental health problems, 43% increase in ADHD, and 37% increase in teen depression, and 200% increase in suicide, rate in kids 10 to 14. And I've been worrying about the idea of all the technology that's kind of been thrown at these kids and how they're handling it. And then what conversations, like we've talked about before, like what conversations are being had with parents to kind of help is all I'm saying. Because I agree with you, Devin, that it's evolving and it's not going away. And it's not that I'm going to like keep my kids from all things. I'm certainly not, but I want to teach them, right? I want to like work in that balance as best I can with trying to teach them like I would want to teach kids in the schools that we serve that same thing. Like, and I just liked her ending point about being emotionally available to connect with kids and teach, those kind of regulation skills and social skills, because to me, so many times I just feel like it's kind of like it's that babysitter. It's just like, yeah, hey, whatever. And we're at the dinner table or at the Applebee's and everybody's just staring down at their phones. It's like you can't even have a conversation kind of thing. And at the same time, it's an amazing device that can connect you across the world in a matter of a second. And, so there's so many advantages to it as well. And so I think for me, I'm just struggling through that, finding the right balance, not only for myself as a parent, and I'll even say as a husband, but then also as a dad. And I'm kind of blessed right now that my kids are young, and it's not to that point where they're begging me for a phone. And then what that would do to kind of change what the household would kind of potentially be like. So yeah, I'm anxious about what does 5 years and 10 years look like for me as a dad, with all this stuff.
And I'd say, that dynamic certainly changes. Both of my girls have a phone. They're both middle schoolers and they've had them for a couple of years. We initially got a phone for Gracie. It was 5th grade. We didn't have a home phone, a home landline. So it was as they started staying home alone for short periods of time. It was primarily the way to get a hold of her to get a hold of us if needed. But it has evolved into, are there times that we, make them put them away? Sure. And I think what's happened is that we've had lots and lots of conversations in our house about phones. And so it's not always perfect, but, we have had those conversations. It's part of what we talk about. We're not always great models. We try not to when we're sitting at dinner and out places, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we'll check. It's one of those things we're dealing with boredom. There's not always, I don't know. Maybe this is me. I'm not a great conversationalist sometimes, but sometimes there's just nothing to talk about. What are we going to do? There's just nothing to talk about. We've talked about, seems like we talked about everything. So, but not very often. We don't have them out, but I can certainly think of times where we have. I don't know. I don't know what I did before. I don't think with my family when I went out to eat that we just sat and talked the whole time. I just can't imagine that that's what we did.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but it doesn't seem like we were always just sitting around having these great conversations.
Yeah. Alternative facts.
Yes.
Well, I do a ton of reading of posts like that, or articles in general on my phone, or potentially. So it's not like I said that someone could be like, yeah, I'm distracted, but I'm actually reading. It'd be no different. I had a newspaper in my hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I've tried to be careful of how I maybe judge someone's use, because I don't know what they're necessarily doing. And I guess for me though, when I'm sitting there thinking if they're putting puppy ears on their head and Snapchat, Well, that's where I might, for me personally, but like who knows, they could be reading some really good stuff on their phone that's very meaningful. And so there's nothing wrong with that, of course. So
one of the things I was curious what you guys think. So, I've seen this other places too, but talk about this idea of not pampering our kids. And one of the examples was, if your son or daughter leaves her lunchbox at home, don't take it to school. You guys all right with that? Like, I think I've done it. I take stuff to school sometimes if they forget it. If they forget it, they forget it. If it's over and over again, we don't. But why would I not take it to school if I forgot it?
Right. No, I'm with you there. I would probably take it as well, and then we'd have a little chat and be like, this isn't going to be a habit, kind of thing. Yeah, I would. I probably would. But I think where she was going was just that idea of like teaching them to kind of fish, like, which maybe they go through those growing.
I agree. Sometimes we make mistakes. Like, it's not, I don't know. I see there was a school that put out something last year or the year before or something where they sent a note home that says, if your son or daughter forgets something, don't bring it. We need to teach them responsibility. It was an elementary school, for crying out loud. Like,
I think we get too caught up in extremes. Mm-hmm. And you have that one camp that is like, I'm never bringing a lunchbox. You got to remember yourself. It's not real life. I've had my wife bring me stuff when I forget it at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but I don't normally forget it twice because it drives me nuts when that happens. But
well, and if you look at that from a school's perspective, this is something that's been kind of weighing on me for some time now at all levels of school. But particularly as like kids get kind of in that middle school range, like suddenly then we're going to teach them the lessons of if they don't come with X, Y, and Z prepared kind of thing. And then I think about what these kids deal with at home or what they might be exposed to and the horror stories that I've heard over the years. And then you have this, I don't know, this really staunch teacher that's saying, no, if they don't bring it, it's this thing. And it's like, hold on a second. Like, we've got to be able to bend a little bit here and there for different scenarios. And I was confronted with that as a principal a lot, and I'm like, y'all don't know what's going on. And sometimes I couldn't share that information with the teacher, unfortunately. And it'd be like, I would make a decision that I know, quite frankly, upset the teacher. And I was, I had to live with those decisions and say, I'm sorry that you disagree with me here, but I can't tell you what's going on. And I wouldn't even necessarily say that, but I'd just be like, this is my decision. You have to deal with it. And have to internalize all of that stuff going on with them at home. And so my heart always kind of goes to, what is that kid going through? And it might not be their fault that they didn't bring their lunch or that they didn't bring their homework or get their spelling words written 15 times each or whatever the case might be, and it's not always their fault. So I agree, like people make mistakes. I do too. And so I'm with you there. It's a good point, Devin.
I think that we can teach responsibility and be empathetic at the same time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a guillotine between the two. So
and I can be supportive of my 11 and 13-year-old.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. All right. Great discussion. If you have thoughts, feel free to tweet at us or use the hashtag throughout the week. Before we get to Dad Moment of the Week, Superfan Bill checking in on the YouTube chat. He was wondering if he gets to dog Brent more than usual since he's no longer his boss. And I said, absolutely. You don't have to worry about evaluations anymore. So looking forward to spreading the wealth of Bill's wrath. So
yes, I concur.
Speaking of getting kids out and about, that leads directly into my Dad Moment of the Week. Not necessarily planned that way, but hey, that's how it goes. We took a maiden voyage on a bike trail the other day. And so I pulled my 4-year-old. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I had the horror story of my 4-year-old screaming on the back of one of the tag-along bikes. So this time we put her in the bike trailer, a little bit more confined. She was able to ride 5 miles from one town to another on a rock bike trail, and my 9-year-old hopped on his bike and sprinted out in front of me, and it was fantastic to just kind of be out in the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of people on there, so he could kind of do whatever he wanted to. Unfortunately, my 7-year-old got sick, so she wasn't able to join us, but looking forward to more things like that. So
Awesome.
Anyway, that's my dad moment of the week.
Very cool.
Devin, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. We went to Des Moines this last weekend, and Aaron and I went with a couple of friends to hear Ira Glass, which was pretty awesome. And we left, our two girls and our friend's daughter, who was a middle schooler as well, kind of in the hotel room. So they had the run of hotel. They had their grandpa was there too, and across the hall in another room. But one of the fun things that happened, if you remember being like that age, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, and kind of having the run of a hotel, that's kind of fun. And we went back, Aaron went back with a friend to pick up the tickets from the room. We forgot them. And when they went up, the sign on the door just said "out exploring," and the girls were just kind of out exploring the hotel, which, like I said, for a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old, that's kind of fun. So we were a little worried about whether out exploring meant the hotel or the city, but they were apparently just in the hotel running around, which was kind of fun.
That was going to be my question too, is how far was this exploring going?
Yeah, just into the skywalks in Des Moines and, around town a little bit. Nothing big.
Okay. All right. Catlett.
I'd say for me, I'm going to go with just the fact, I don't know, it's kind of back to school. And I have a son started preschool, a son started kindergarten, and my daughter started second and one in fifth. And I'm kind of, I don't know, I got a message from my daughter's teacher on Remind I think it was yesterday or the day before, and she said, kind of basically just bragging on Kennedy that she had done really well when the others were kind of not doing so well within class. And so she said, and so at dinner, I kind of brought it up and bragged on her in front of the boys. And then again at night, as I was tucking her in, just kind of saying how proud I was of her. It feels good to get those kinds of messages. And I'm thankful for her teacher at this point, who's using tools to keep in touch with us and making it easy for me to, bridge that gap between school and home. And so I really appreciate that too. And so I'm proud of her and just kind of proud of the boys that, they're doing well. And I don't know, it's cool to see that evolving and them growing. And it's like everybody says, oh, it'll be gone in a blink, and I'm starting to get that sense, because it's like, it won't be long. I'm gonna have them all shipped off at school. And I don't know. So it's crazy, how that's evolving, so just kind of humbling as their dad and being a part of that journey.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a part of the show where the IQ goes up. We are so excited tonight to be joined by Eric Ewald. Tonight's guest, Eric, is sponsored by Thompson Water Seal Deck Protection. Next time Dad is working on his deck, suggest Thompson Water Seal, the unofficial deck stain of the Dads and Ed podcast. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Excited to be here. I even wore, as a result of your podcast last episode, I even got my Voxer T-shirt on. Nice. No kickback from that, but just thought I'd throw that on tonight for fun after you guys' last episode.
Well, we could say Voxer is the official organizing tool. I don't really know. I would. Obviously, I have to type this stuff out. I don't think of it on the fly, so I'll work on that for next time.
Vox is a pretty good tool. Let's leave it at that.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'm an elementary school principal. This is my 6th year as an elementary school principal. I'm in Iowa City, Iowa. Actually, Iowa City School District. I'm actually in North Liberty, just north of Iowa City. Pre-K through 6th grade school. We've got about 550 students. Van Allen Elementary. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. I have 2 children of my own. I'm a dad myself. That's probably the role that I enjoy even more than being a principal. I love being a principal, but even more, I love being a dad. My son is 6, about to be 7. He's in 1st grade. He goes to a school just down the street from me, about a mile away. So that's pretty nice to be close by. We have a daughter who just turned 3, and she's all that we can handle at home. And my wife is also a teacher. She's a first grade teacher. So we're in 3 different schools. So it keeps us busy, more than busy.
So your children don't.
Yeah, talking a little bit. I think about that transition. Going into a principalship, right? So going from maybe being a teacher to something else. Can you talk about that transition? You're only 6 years in, isn't all that long. That transition from to going into a leadership position like that.
Yeah, well, I taught for 4 years. I was only in the classroom for 4 years. And then after that, I was in a district where we had, I don't know if you guys are familiar with SAMs, School Administration Managers. I was in Davenport, Iowa at the time, and they viewed that as kind of like an internship for principals. You had to have your administrative degree to pursue those roles. And it was basically just a paid internship. And for 2 years, I got to shadow the principal. And I worked with an absolutely wonderful, wonderful principal, Mary Ann Corbin. And I basically did what she asked me to do, worked hand in hand with her for 2 years, got to pick her brain at the end of each day in regards to the decisions that she made. And basically the purpose of the role is to just do some of the management things so that the principal can focus on being an instructional leader. It was an amazing, amazing opportunity. I just think it helped prepare me so much from transitioning from the classroom, then having that bridge before I became an actual principal, because I was young. When I first became a principal, I was in my late 20s, and most of the staff is older than me at the time, and I'm competent and I'm intelligent and I think I've got it figured out, but I'm this young guy and first time doing this job, and so that's kind of tough and kind of challenging, and but you've got to start somewhere, and so I'm thankful to have that opportunity where I got to learn basically for 2 years and just shadow an amazing principal.
That's awesome, Eric. So you said like your wife and the kids are all in different places, yes?
Yes, we are in 3 different schools, 2 different districts, which is an improvement. There for 1 year, when my son was in preschool, we were in 3 different schools in 3 different districts, and so it's nice that my son and I were on the exact same calendar schedule. My wife's she's her calendar is pretty close to ours, so it's manageable for sure.
Yeah, I know. Back when in my younger days, when I became principal, I hadn't had children at the time, and I was kind of worried about the what if factor if they were in the building I was principal at, because some of those concerns about, well, what would that be like if your kid was rotten and then they're in this class or not rotten and the teacher's, what I mean? Like there was a million scenarios going through my head about, but now if I just went to fast forward, if I were principal today, I would want them in my building. Like absolutely.
So funny story, before we had kids and everything, and even when our kids were young, before they were in school, I was the biggest advocate for neighborhood schools, and kids should go to their neighborhood schools because that's where their friends are going to be that they're playing with on the weekends and at nights and in the summertime. And then, I got a principal position and my son was starting kindergarten, and my son wanted to go to my school, and all of a sudden it's creeping in the back of my mind that, oh, that would be a pretty cool opportunity, a pretty neat opportunity. Maybe my son should come to my school. And but my wife quickly reminded me how big of an advocate I was for neighborhood schools, and we were able to, mutually agree that his neighborhood school would be the best place for him. Couldn't be happier with the school that he goes to. If his principal is a good friend of mine, Nick Proud, another member of Dad's principals. So, the experience that he gets down the street a mile away, and I've got meetings there sometimes, so I get to stop in and whatnot. So it's pretty good. And, his best friends they're in the neighborhood. So I can't complain, but at the same time, it would be kind of nice to just every now and again pop in and say hi and, have some of those moments that you're not able to have because you are so busy as a principal, and it's hard to get away a lot of the time.
My wife is pretty good about reminding me about certain educational philosophies that I may have spouted at one time and then sometimes drift away from. So I feel you there. I understand.
Yeah, they have good memories.
Dang it. Hey, you mentioned Nick and Dads as principals, and talk to us a little bit about, you have at Dads as principal and then also the hashtag as well. Talk a little bit about how that got started and what the purpose is.
Yeah. So this past summer at the National Principals Conference out in Philadelphia, there was a group of us. There were 5 guys, myself, Nick Proud, both of us are in Iowa City, and then Hamish Brewer and Andy Jacks, both out in Virginia, and Todd Schmidt all the way in California. We're sitting together, getting ready for a keynote to start, and just having a good time and hanging out with each other and doing small talk like guys do. And next thing you know, there's kind of a correspondent, a mirror group called Moms as Principals, and we're Hamish was the one that started with just a selfie picture of the 5 of us and tweeted it out with the hashtag Dads as Principals, and it was more or less a joke, more than anything, not a joke, but just we're killing time, and the keynote had started and it wasn't very engaging to any of us, so we're trying to make the best of the moment and whatnot. So he shared that out, and then people started retweeting it and liking it and commenting. And next thing you know, we, and I forget how it transpired exactly, but something along the lines of, share out a picture of, your kids, the thing that you love the most, and, include the hashtag Dads as Principals. And I'm trying to remember that this was like on the Monday of the conference. The conference was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I want to say. And this was like Monday afternoon. And for like 48 hours, after that, continuously, people are just posting to that hashtag. And so, we thought we were maybe onto something with it. And I don't know, I still don't know that we know what that is that we were onto with that. But, you guys are dads and ed, you know what it's like. Being an educator is our job, but and it's a passion and something that we love to do. But, so is being a dad, and so is having children of our own. And that's something that we like sharing that too, and glorifying that, and taking time to celebrate that, because that's what at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that we do, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that, because really that's kind of how we got started. We knew there was more to more to kind of how we had come together than just being educators, and just acknowledging that dad part was really, really important. And that kind of parlays into that next thing, so we recently saw with Dads on Deck and doing some stuff with Joe Mazza, who's been on the show before too. Talk about that endeavor too in the podcast, and where you think that's going.
Yeah. So like I said a minute ago, we got this started, and I don't know that we knew where it was going then, and I still don't know that we know where it's going now, but there's still momentum behind it. So we'll just keep plugging away and see what happens. Joe Mazza was out at the National Principals Conference too. I think that, we somehow got connected and started having a conversation that, maker dads and dads as principals. This is a lot of similarities here between these two groups. We should partner and do something together, and share each other's audience a little bit. And so the idea to do another podcast, Dads on Deck, which we've got 1 episode recorded of so far, is kind of still in the works and still being planned. The ideas that these will be short little podcasts with just dads talking about being a dad. Ideally, they'll be released on Friday afternoon, and the intention with that was that dads are leaving work and leaving school for the week, and on the commute home, they can listen to this quick little podcast to get back into dad mode for the weekend. Not that you're ever not in dad mode, but a little bit more time in the weekend. So, that was kind of the impetus behind it, and that, we can maybe do some things and share some of the work, being that there's 5 guys in dads as principals, and I think there's 5 guys in maker dads as well. But at the same time, that can be kind of challenging when you're trying to organize that many people trying to move in one direction. But it's for a good cause and with good people, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, just hearing you, I'm just sitting here kind of reflecting on how Josh and Devin and I kind of just got cranking on it. Here we are 72 episodes later, and I love to hear and see all of this kind of coming about, right, Eric? I mean, it's cool that, because at the end of the day, I think for me, like you mentioned earlier, I mean, my number one favorite thing, if I could just do that, would be to be a dad. I tease with my wife all the time. I'm like, if you want to go to work and I stay home, I'm cool with that. And she's like, you'd go out of your mind. And I'm like, perhaps she's right, but I'd still shift and trade places in a heartbeat, just because there are those days where I'm like, man, I just want to be with my kids and hang out and have fun and play and engage with them and build those memories, So I think that's always helped me be more empathetic. Like we were talking about earlier, Josh mentioned that word and struck me as we were talking about the article to start the show. I mean, at the end of the day, at your school that you're a principal at, you have kids showing up that are somebody's child. That's somebody, that's there's a dad out there that thinks of those kids just like you do your own. And that's what's really driven me for many years now. And when I was first principal, I didn't have children. And I remember some parents and even teachers kind of getting after me about like not understanding or not knowing. And I remember being defensive about that and like, thinking, well, no, but now that I have children, it's totally changed the game for me. And so it's fun in our quote professional learning networks to be sharing about this stuff as well, right? And kind of being transparent about it also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that bottom line, like you said, I mean, every kid that we serve in our school is somebody else's child and somebody else's pride and joy. And I think that I try to make decisions based off that in the back of my mind. I mean, I was just sent an email today, and I went back and forth. Do I want to take the time to send this? Do I not want to send this? And then, the decision-making factor was, if I were the parent, would I want to receive this email? And absolutely I would. So I sent it, and it was just a positive thing, a picture that I taken of a kid. It took me a minute to search for the email address and type the text, but it didn't take that long. And I would have loved it as a dad, and the feedback that I got from the parents was positive. So it was totally doing stuff like that is totally worth it, and what it's all about. I mean, that's the stuff that people remember at the end of the day.
Yeah. Before we get to our last question, we mentioned as right before Eric came on about Bill Little taking shots at Devin, and the first shot's already been fired on our YouTube page. Bill points out the dads on deck need to get you guys as guests, especially Josh and Devin.
Hey, there it is.
Bill knows that Brent's not in charge anymore. So
I'm going to tell him about high noon tomorrow, so I can send him off with one final write-up. I think
Bill, you need a sick day in the morning. Take the morning off, bud.
He did also mention on the Twitter now that he's free of your tyrannical reign, that I am his favorite. So I knew it. I knew that was the case, and the tyranny is over, Bill. No more tyranny down in ISD Strong. Right. A little stronger now.
Well, Eric, we started this podcast, 5 years ago or whatever, and it's always been based around that intersection of parenting and education. And obviously, with your kids just being in first grade, like mine, my oldest is in fourth now, and so that impact for me is still taking place, as I imagine it is for you. But how already has being a parent impacted your role in education and vice versa?
I think it's been a game changer. I see everything through the lens of not only the decisions that I'm making as an educator, but the decisions that I'm making as a parent and what I want out of school for my kids as a parent. And, that's what I really try hard to replicate as a principal. And, first and foremost, as a parent, I want my student to enjoy school. I want my student to like going to school. I want my student to have fun experiences when he's at school. End of the day, we get so tied up and caught up in some of the logistical pieces of schooling and education, and those are things that are really important. But at the end of the day, I don't know, what parent has the goal for their child that I just want him to be proficient on standard XYZ. I mean, that's all important. But more than anything, speaking as a parent, I want my kid to enjoy school, to like school, to have fun while he's there, to have people that I know care about him while he's there. And so, the standards and those things are important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling those by any means, but we've got to touch kids on a personal level first and foremost.
Absolutely. Well put. Well, Eric, we appreciate having you on. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. Can we have you stick around for a couple of minutes while we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you that have been around for a while know that we every year find something different to do at the end of the show. And last year, we got pretty specific about what it is that we were sharing with you. And we decided to ditch that part. And to quote my favorite former teacher librarian that now works at Grantwood AEA, sharing is caring. And so what we decided to do is we'll still be sharing some things that we really enjoy and that we really like, whether they're education related, family related, or otherwise. But we're not going to, nobody puts baby in the corner. We're not going to put ourselves into a box. It's kind of a free for all. Some of you may read into the fact that sometimes our research happens after 8 o'clock with the show starting at 8:30. That may have something to play into it, but sharing is caring. So here we go. I'll start off. This week, I don't know if you guys knew this little company called Apple, who apparently hires anyone to help out around the house, released iOS 11 for iPads and iPhones, and it's been pretty cool. We actually did it. I did it my iPhone and my iPad yesterday. I have actually been. I've talked in the past about Flipboard magazines and my undying love for that fantastic platform. I have had a iPad Ed magazine for a long time, and I have put a whole bunch of iOS 11 related magazines or articles in that iPad Ed. So follow it, flip through. iOS 11 is pretty sweet. As an instructional tech person, I could have used that dang screen recording about 10 years ago. Well, not 10 because there wasn't an iPad then, but that is going to be one of the more fantastic things. I'm going to do more iPad videos this year than I have in a long time because that's pretty awesome. So anyway, just put that out on the Dads and Ed hashtag from the Dads and Ed account. Go check that out. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right.
I want to share about the book by Eric Schenninger and Thomas Murray called Learning Transformed, 8 Keys to Designing Tomorrow's Schools Today. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and I'm loving it. It's so well done. So impressed with, as I complete my doctorate and I'm working on my dissertation, I have to admit I'm kind of liking this idea of research-based writing. And they've done a great job of really talking about everything that's going on within education, particularly kind of around the ed tech piece, and the importance of what goes into that and the decisions made by schools and districts. And it's fantastic. And I intend to share some thoughts once I finish up. I've been kind of taking notes and highlighting, and it's probably going to make its way into my dissertation, in fact, as well. But it's good stuff. Great guys, obviously great leaders. And so I really would suggest to get out there and read that one if you have a chance. Learning Transformed by Schenninger and Murray.
Both former guests of the podcast, by the way. See, Eric, a book deal could be in your future too. That's what happens when you get here. Lots of people have written books that have been on the show.
We are
Dean Tresky and Scott McCloud just put out a book together.
guy, Josh. As proof that we don't plan. That was actually my sharing is caring for the night. Is a current book I'm reading by
That's a good read-in.
by former guests Scott McCloud and Dean Tresky. And I feel like you both just stole, not that there was a lot of thunder there, but Brent did a book. I was doing a book. I didn't know. And then Josh goes and shares the people who I was going to share. So I feel like I need to do something else, but on the spot, I'm not going to do it.
You know what you need to do? Put it in the notes so I don't say that next time.
Well, I was just going to put it in the notes, and I figured there's no way they're going to talk about that. Why would they?
Great minds think alike.
That's all right. Yeah, I was just going to say we are kind of like, you look at those great coaching trees, you have a great coach and all these assistant coaches go out and get, these head coaching gigs. I'm pretty sure that's what's happened to all of these guys. The book deals, the keynotes, the new podcast, like all this stuff just spawns from being on this show is my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
I was thinking of us more as like a Wormy Dog Saloon or Tootsie's or what's the one? Oh, it's driving me nuts. Those small music places that you kind of get discovered in. We're a small, we're the number 11th rated podcast on many people's top 10 list. That's how people get discovered.
We are certainly the ones that got, Dean Tresky noticed.
Yeah.
But I am going to share. I'm just about done with it, and as I was reading a different schools for a different world by Dean and Scott, it was just I'm reading. I'm like, gosh, if I could write a book, I would say all these things. So, it's a really great read, really easy read. About how schools need to change and some of the things that we can look for and do, and really, really good read. And if you know Dean and Scott, both really great guys. And the nice thing about, having had conversations with them and having them had them on the show, you can hear their voices in lots of that writing too. So I can hear Scott saying all the things that, he's writing in that book, and same thing for Dean. So I really encourage people to read it. It's a nice read. And like I said, if I could write a book, I would say all the things that they're saying.
And we'll put links to all this on dadsanded.com so that you can check those out. Eric, anything you want to share?
No, nothing that I haven't talked about already. My two biggest things that I love doing are being a dad, and I love being a principal. I think it's the most fun job in the world. And actually, last year at iTech, you guys, I forget what the premise was. You guys had people in the audience sharing something to the Dads and Ed hashtag, and I shared a picture of Ron where he wanted to be a principal when he grew up. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'm not always the best dad, and I know that I'm not always the most present dad, and I'm not always the most balanced dad, but I think that speaks volumes to our kids, that when we show them that we love doing what we do, and it can inspire them to grow up to become something along those same lines. I think that is justification that we're doing something right. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was our dad, mom, or dog owner of the week segment during the keynote.
Yes, it was.
I know what you're talking about.
I remember it too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of episode 72. We will be back in 2 weeks. Look forward to having you. Be sure to keep in touch at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag. Eric, once again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And are we going to see you in a couple weeks at iTech?
I'll be there. I will be there.
Looking forward to it.
Sounds
all right,
good.
We'll see everyone in 2 weeks.